For this video, we are going to discuss how to find the distance between 2 points. So let's take a look at this first example. We're going to find the distance between the points -2, 3 and -7, -7. The first thing I want to do is match up my x-coordinates, which is going to be those first two numbers in each set. So I'm going to take that -2 and the -7 and match those up. When I match them up, I want to figure out how far apart -2 and -7 are from each other. If I'm counting, I can go, okay, -2, -3, okay, that's 1, -4, -5, -6, -7. So it's 5 spaces from each other. However, we shouldn't always just be counting on our fingers or however we're doing this. So I can see that both -2 and -7 are negatives. Whenever your two numbers are the same, both negatives or both positives, we can subtract. So I'm going to take 7 minus 2 to get 5. Notice that when I did subtract, I didn't care that they were negatives. I took the absolute value of it, meaning I made the two numbers positive before subtracting. So +7 minus +2. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for my y coordinates, the 3 and the -7. This time they're opposite. One is a positive and one is a negative. When our two numbers are opposite of each other, we're going to add them up. 3 plus 7 equals 10. Again, notice that when I added them up, I made sure that both the numbers were positive. +3 plus +7. I'm going to put a 10 right there. From here, we're going to do the Pythagorean theorem. Meaning, I'm going to go ahead and square these numbers. So 5 squared plus 10 squared equals c squared. And that 10 squared looks a lot like a 2, so let me draw that in a little bit more so we don't get confused. 5 squared plus 10 squared equals c squared. Now I'll square those numbers. 5 squared is 25 plus 10 squared is 100 equals c squared. We're going to keep going by adding up those numbers now. 100 plus 25 is 125 equals c squared. And notice that c is still squared, so to find our final answer, we need to now square root both sides. So I will square root the 125, square root the c squared. The square root of 125 is 11.18 equals c. So now we have our final answer. The distance between the 2 points is 11.18. We're going to do 2 more examples with a word problem as well at the end. So when I introduce the next question, feel free to pause, try to do it on your own, and then press play again, see if you get the correct answer. So problem number 2, we have 8, 5 and -1, 3. So again, step 1, we are going to connect the first two numbers. 1 is positive, 1 is negative. And whenever we see that they're different, we're going to add them up. 8 plus 1 is 9. Let's go ahead and connect the next two, 5 and 3. So one thing to note is you can do this in either order. So for instance, 8 plus 1, I could have also done 1 plus 8, still got a 9. However, for this one, see they're both positive, so that means I'm going to subtract. I can do 5 minus 3 and get 2. If I do 3 minus 5, I get negative 2. The important thing is that distance, though, is always positive. So I'm going to put positive 2 right there. Now I will use the Pythagorean theorem. 9 squared plus 2 squared equals c squared. 9 squared is 81. 2 squared is 4, which equals c squared. 81 plus 4 is 85. Now comes the time when we square root both sides. Let's go ahead and take the square root of 85. Second while I calculate this. That is going to be 9.2195. I'll round it to 4 digits this time as our final answer. The distance between the 2 points is 9.2195. Great. Let's move on to our next example. This one's going to be a little bit trickier. In this problem, we have decimals. The process, though, is exactly the same. We're going to start off by matching up our first two numbers. One is negative, one is positive. We want to remember, whenever we have one of each, we add them up. 2.9 plus 10.8. So we have 2.9 plus 10.8, which is going to equal 13.7. Now I will do the same thing over here. This time I can see that they're both negative. Whenever they're both the same thing, we subtract. 1.7 minus 1.4 equals 0.3. Time for Pythagorean theorem. 13.7 squared plus 0.3 squared equals c squared. 13.7 squared is 187.69. 0.3 squared is 0.09. Now let's finish adding those two up. 0.09 plus 187.69 is 187.78 equals c squared. Lastly, we're going to go ahead and square root those numbers to get us c equals 13.703. So the distance between the 2 points is 13.703.